Hello there, YouTube, and welcome to another cat stream. As you can tell, it's Monday, and I have my wait. No, I don't. I don't have my usual co-host with me. For some reasons, they've all fucked off and left me, so I'm now stuck with Social Free State and Mr.
Hi.
Crumplepoint. I tried. I tried, and Mr. Crumplepoint.
Hello, hello.
So obviously, first little bit that's up. Obviously, most people know Social Free State. We've had her on, well, two times now to talk about different aspects in that. You'll all be happy, and I'm sure she will be as well, that she's not talking about that type of aspects today. She's actually going to give us her opinion on politics. So we're quite happy with that. Yeah, well, we'll try. We'll try.
Yeah.
We've obviously got one of our long-term subscribers, Mr. Crumplepoint Needlepoint. Yeah, I remember your name from Discord.
It's about my wit, I swear.
Good old Mr. Magic Bollocks. Changing everybody's name. So yeah, we've got that. So today we're going to be talking about, well, Count Dankula and everything else that's going on with Count Dankula. Obviously, first of all, we need to start off with the actual video itself. I'm not going to play it because I don't really want to owe Count Dankula any money. I'm sure he's going to fucking copyright it at some point. He has to. So many people have already used it. So I think the first question is to go to both people on our panelists and to the chat. Is it racist? What was it? Anti-Semitic in anybody's point of view? Was it at all?
No.
Well, that was quick. I thought that'd last a bit longer.
And that's the show, guys. Thank you for coming.
Social Free State, help! I mean, take it away.
Yeah, it was taking a piss out basically, and it doesn't make sense what the judge was doing, but they do have activists judging these courts these days, so it doesn't surprise me. The outcome of what's happened with regards to the judge. But no, it wasn't racist. It wasn't anti-Semitic. It was just comedy, wasn't it?
The other thing about the video that gets me is people keep going on about. The thing is, if you watch Dankula's videos, they have a very set format, and that video doesn't fit the format of one of his funny videos because it's like a vlog if you watch it. And it's very obviously this is the trial where context died, but it's very obviously not part of his channel proper, and it's like a little side thing. And so even then, it's not one of his comedy videos. It's clearly for him and a couple of mates, and it just blew up.
Well, I think that was basically Count Dankula's channel, though, isn't it? He just tried doing a couple of bits for him and his mates, and then everything just kind of blew up. Yeah,
true.
But I was going to say that I think it's more of a case of we're already going on to the points of judges and courts and things like that. We have to remember that nobody actually made any sort of pledges towards this or actually made any criticism towards it. Even before the courts and everything was actually happening, not a single person even made a bad comment on the fucking video. It's just the police down there decided that it was a good idea to arrest him for no reason at that point.
Yeah, it was very obviously political motivated, and there was, as you say, no complaint made by a member of the public until long after it was, publicised by the blessed mainstream media, who were, of course, completely straight down the middle in their coverage of the trial.
Yeah, they were partisan. They were definitely partisan.
The thing was that obviously you'll want to move on to the other aspects of the trial. So just sticking with the anti-Semitism thing, it's like the context is what makes it. People, if you look at Michael McIntyre and stuff like that, even he's made jokes where he's done Hitler salutes and shouted things that Hitler said about Jews because he was making jokes. And Michael McIntyre's about as vanilla as it gets. And I'm sure everybody in the comment section could name a different comedian that's made a similar joke, but this was done for other reasons, and it's the intent that matters. That's what matters in a criminal case is, means, motive, opportunity. Was the motive anti-Semitism? No. How do you tell that? Well, the context is what tells you what the motive was, and that's why they chose to ignore the context, because that shows that the motive was not anti-Semitism.
Well, I mean, even just quickly going back to the actual video, not even actually going into the trial at all. If you watched, well, everybody's watched the fucking video, obviously, and it's a case that in the video he's not taking the piss out of Jews. He doesn't even mention the Jews apart from the actual joke that he makes where he says gas them. But he's not doing it to say gas the Jews. He's doing it to take the piss out of the Nazis and the ideology that stems from that. He's not actually doing it to actually form any sort of political allegiances towards them or push that narrative. It's quite easily to tell that because he's asking a dog to gas him. So
yeah, the
that
Scottish
in itself
government
is the
really
comical
thinks
point.
the opinion of pugs is very important.
Well, no, that's the thing, though. Even if it wasn't a pug, even if it was a fucking Rottweiler or a fucking Doberman or a German Shepherd, it wouldn't fucking matter in that context because the context is that it's a dog that he's fucking trying to say gas the Jews. It's not the case that he's trying to tell somebody else or anything else like that. It's the context of him telling his dog. He's going to turn the dog into something that's not cute, which is a Nazi. That is the context of the fucking video, remember? That it wasn't to do with this anti-Semitism or this Nazi thing. It was the fact that his girlfriend at the time fucking loved the pug so much and thought it was the cutest thing in the world that all he wanted to do was turn it into the least cutest thing in the world. And that's where your context is.
Yep. And there's lots of Jewish groups. Sorry. Sorry.
Carry on, Social.
I think there's classism involved in this as well, because this would not happen to someone who is in a middle class sort of family or anything like that.
I kind of agree with you.
I think it's definitely something to do with working class people and to keep them shut down.
You've nicked my point I was saving for later. That is a great point. No. Like, there are channels that I will not name because they're bigger than me and can squash me, but there's channels on the internet that are openly, alt-right, openly fascist in Scotland, openly ethno-statish, and they just talk quite plainly about it. But they're educated, they're university educated, they live in nice, flats and things like that. Count Dankula is from an extremely poor part of the world, which I visit quite regularly, actually, and it's a very hard part of the world to grow up in. And look at him. You put him on a newspaper. He's got the tattoos. He's got the ear piercings. He's got the beard. It's really easy to make a villain out of him. And it's really easy to sensationalize. So they chose him instead of, as you say, a middle class or upper class person saying the same stuff and believing it.
Yeah, he's selected, doesn't he?
Yeah, I definitely would say that he's kind of pre-selected. I think it was a case at the time when they selected him, it was a case that he was so low down the pecking order that they thought that they could get this under the table, so to speak. Because obviously at the time he only had like something like 9 subscribers when he did that video. So when it was actually brought to anybody's attention, he probably only had around about 1,000 to 2,000 subscribers. To us, yeah, that seems like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. So I definitely say that there's a point of that as well, where he hasn't got the backing of the rest of the people, and it was a case of, in my opinion, trying to get this law pushed through rather than anything. They thought it'd be an easier touch.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. They need
and obviously they know that he can't.
One at a time.
Sorry, my bad.
Go on.
Go on, Crumple.
They know he can't afford the kinds of lawyers that other people can afford as well. So he's an easy prey, like you guys said.
Yeah, Social.
Yeah. I mean, he is easy prey, and he looks like someone that a lot of people or a lot of middle class people don't want to associate themselves with. He has got that look, as you've said. So, people are going to be, online and toeing the line.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
Well, there's another aspect is that they know it was a joke, and that's what bugs them. They know that his entire channel is devoted to ridiculing them. The Scottish government and people on the, not even the left. You know what I mean? These social justice maniacs. Um, Count Dankula is against them, but unlike the actual Nazis who will have a debate and an argument, and the thing with debates is everybody leaves thinking what they thought before. But if you make a joke about somebody and completely destroy everything they have to say by making the crowd laugh at them, that's much more dangerous. So you go after Dankula because he can do that, whereas the actual alt-right people can't do that.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you. I mean, we already said before, didn't we, that it's the case with if you can make somebody laugh, then as you quite rightly said, it does destroy their arguments, but it also makes them think. Laughter is one of those amazing things where you have to think about the joke, think about the context, see if it's actually tickles you or not, and then actually find the funny bone in it. So for all those processes to actually happen, you actually have to take in the joke subconsciously and find the context behind it. So you have to look at it as an empathetic point of view. That's why comedy is subjective, because it's only how you perceive to put yourself in other people's positions. If you can't do that, generally you don't have a sense of humor.
Yeah,
I think,
and all the
Karen,
time. How many times do you like get in an argument with somebody and then somebody makes a joke and then you're kind of both like, okay, that was funny, and you kind of stop arguing because it was funny. They don't want that
and then
either.
you
They
buy
want
the other
people
person
polarized.
another beer. And then you buy the other person a beer and you forget that you even spilt the beer in the first place.
Exactly, and they don't want us sitting drinking beer together. They want us at each other's throats.
Exactly that point. I suppose that we could move on to the actual farce of the fucking trial and how many fucking times it even took for them to even decide what they were going to charge him with. Because that took fucking almost, what was it, a year and a half for him to even get to this point after the actual trial started?
Yeah.
That in itself should just say to everybody that there's something going up with that they're trying to make an actual point and trying to push the law through.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, maybe.
There's
I mean,
it's a specific technique they've used, but oh, you go ahead, Social.
well, I was just going to say that court system is really slow at the moment anyway because of how it's set out and everything. My case has been going on for 5 years, so it doesn't surprise me that what has it been, 2 years all in all for him. Mine's
Yeah.
obviously a civil case, but yeah, the legal system's dead slow. I'm not sure if that is deliberate.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly, what I was meaning was that obviously it's taken Pacific cases a longer period of time, but it's not the case that this one's taken the time. It's the case that it's gone to trial, then been suspended, then gone to trial, then been suspended, then gone to trial, then been suspended,
Yeah.
and then they changed the sentencing. Then they changed what it was that he was being accused of. Then he went to court again, and now he's being sentenced.
Yeah, I've tried to tell as many people as possible this. It's a specific thing they do. I was hearing from a person that works in the legal system up here. What they do is if you're a gangster, right, and they know you're a gangster and you're doing all manner of depraved shit, but they can't get you on anything. What they'll do is they'll get you on like a traffic offence or something like that, and that's what they'll do because it keeps you off the street.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows them much more time to gather evidence than if they just held you overnight or for a week or whatever for questioning, because they've got you on something. And then they just, as you say, they suspend it, have the trial, suspend it again. And then they go, oh, look, we found a murder weapon or something. And then they've managed to successfully put a very dangerous person away after keeping them off the street for even longer.
Yeah.
And that's what's so despicable about this is the fact that they've used something that it's bending the rules, but it's probably helped a lot of people over the years, them doing that sort of thing, and they've gone and used it for this trivial bullshit. And it's a really good example of why you shouldn't abuse the law like that, even if it has good consequences sometimes,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the most famous version that I can ever think of this actually happening was obviously Al Capone. He didn't ever get done on anything that it was actually supposed to happen. He got done on tax fucking evasion to start off with.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it, and that's kind of what they try and do up here. Is like if they know a guy is running a gang, if they can just get him for something like that and just keep suspending the trial, that gives them, a year or a year and a half with which to find the thing they're really after him for.
Yeah, it just goes to show you how much we're willing to waste money to
Right.
change fucking laws to make it more authoritarian for the government to tell us what we can and cannot say.
Well, it shows you how scary it is, doesn't it? Because they've used that
Yeah.
thing that's reserved for the most repugnant of criminals in this country, and they've done it to get Count Dankula, and there wasn't even a member of the public complained. It was an completely political trial in the first place because it was the government that charged him.
Yep.
Like, what the fuck? That's scary shit.
Yeah, it's like an American trial. It wasn't a case of a person taking that other person to court like it normally is. As in, if obviously with social circumstances, it was a case of those people you would be taken to court. In this case, it's the government that is taking fucking Count Dakin to court, which is the equivalent of the state versus White or the state versus Meacham in this case. That's the
Yeah.
scary thing for our country.
Well, that's why
Okay.
they did him under the Communications Act.
They're twist.
Because
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Social.
But
Go
they're
ahead.
twisting
Yeah,
a
on
lot
you
of
go,
the
Social.
laws,
Sorry.
aren't they? I was going to say they're twisting a lot of the. They've done that with Lawrence Southern with the Terrorist Act, and it seems that they've reached a real desperate climate, haven't they? With the way in which they're dealing with generally conservative thinking people.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up an extremely valid point to the fact that they're willing to ban basically people like Lauren Southern and people that are on the right side of thinking, so to speak. And they're willing to bring in terrorists, known terrorists from ISIS and ISIS fighters that have been literally killing people by the thousands, or at least hundreds. And yet they're inviting them people back to give them fucking social housing, to give them bloody passports back, to give all of them stuff. But somebody that says something bad against Islam by saying that maybe Allah might be gay is a case of no, you're going to leave the country now. Don't come back. Otherwise, we're going to say that you're on a terrorist list. That just shows you the state of our fucking government, doesn't it? And the thing is, this is supposed to be a conservative government. Can we imagine how much worse it would be if Corbyn was in charge?
I'd be terrified. I would. I wouldn't want to deal with it.
The thing is, as well, that it's a scary thing with the police used to have a lot of discretion, and people keep blaming the police. And Alpha Go has just said was it Alpha? Yeah, about the CPS. The CPS were the ones that organised all this nonsense. Like the police, the constables used to have a lot of discretion, and they could not choose whether to charge somebody or not, but they could prioritise what they were going to investigate. But now with Police Scotland and the structure that Police Scotland has, everything is centralised and everything comes from above. So the police on the street really have no say in what they're policing.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. But Social Free State's got more fucking experience than I have with the CPS, so please go ahead.
Oh, fire on.
No, I don't. I don't know much about it, to be honest with you. I'm still learning about it, but if what you're saying about the Scottish government, that's terrifying. But the likes of Jeremy Corbyn could have full control over England and Wales in our criminal prosecution service and what have you.
Hey, don't forget Northern Ireland. We got a Northern Irishman in chat.
Yeah,
Don't forget
sorry. That. Sorry. But, yeah, I love Northern Irish people.
It's all right. It's all right. He's a cunt anyway. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm Northern Ireland. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, it is worrying about how things are turning out. It just does seem like there's absolute desperation going on, and I think there's a real preventative of people being able to talk about real issues as well, similar to what's gone on with Telford and everything like that. I believe that this is going to have issues with lots of people talking about huge issues going on in society.
No, I completely agree with both of you. I mean, you've got the police at this moment in time that probably want to do stuff, but physically can't because the CPS, even if they do stuff and actually arrest people, the CPS will look at the evidence and look at the cases and go, "Oh, we've only got about a 45% chance of convicting them," or "Oh, this case is going to look really racist, so we're not going to actually even go for statutory rape or grooming or anything else like that. Well, we're going to leave the cases to itself." And it just goes to show that they are literally targeting people. They're targeting different ways of being able to get to their quotas. And this is the reason why quotas doesn't fucking work in our country or any sort of civilized country. Because you can't live life like a quota. You have to deal with what comes. Justice is supposed to be blind. It's supposed to deal by a case-by-case basis, not a case of, oh, well, we've had 5 rapes this year, so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we can get another 10 murders instead. It doesn't work like that. Stop trying to fill a quota and actually do what you're supposed to do.
There's another element of the police in Scotland are so undermanned just now because of the restructuring of Police Scotland as well. There's basically the SNP. I wish I'd actually had some citations to hand because this is a bit of a big claim, but in my opinion, the SNP are actually breaking their own laws in the way of policing that they've gone for, because there's some kind of ratio. I can't remember what it is, but it's a certain number of police to a certain number of people, and there are some places in Scotland where you're looking at like 1 cop per something like 20,000 people, because like you'll have Edinburgh on a Saturday night, and they have got 24 officers available, and they're supposed to have. I'm just using figures for the sake of argument, but they're supposed to have maybe 5 dozen, and they've got 2 dozen, and people just do not hear about this. And it's not like it's secret knowledge; it's not classified information. It's just not talked about, which is why they go for these other cases and they shut down people who they think might report on these things.
I completely and absolutely agree with you. I mean, even looking at it from a, please go after me, but I just want to make this point. Even if looking at it from a completely anecdotal evidence and not even using the citation, if you ever go out in the middle of a high street or anything else like that, you will see police fucking almost everywhere, on almost every corner or at least every bar. If you go during the day, you will be lucky to stand there all day and see one Bobby walk up and fucking down the high street once. You'll be lucky to see that. And as you quite rightly said, Crumple Point, where the fuck are they getting them all? If they're focusing in one area, why aren't they doing that in other places when they know that they need it? It's worrying to me. It really is. The same as what you just said. It really does worry me that they try to say they don't have the numbers, but yet they can do that. And if they don't have the numbers, why are they worrying so much about fucking drunks that are fighting drunks and go and make sure that they don't have people that are getting raped on the fucking streets? Surely that's a better idea than looking after 2 drunks.
And the cops want to, and they're not allowed because it's all centralized command. That's the thing. It's like it makes your blood boil and you blame the cops, and then you realize that actually, and I've met my fair share of cops that were completely, let's say, difficult, but the majority of them are all right. And the thing is, they're not just undermanned, but because Police Scotland was a complete restructure, the way it used to be done was it used to be done by geographical spread.
Yeah.
So, you'd you know what I mean? Like you would have a geographical location from which the police would kind of have a central point and they would patrol that area, and then the next area would be another police force.
Yep.
What they did with Police Scotland was when they restructured it, they went by city councils. Now, city councils do not go by geographical location. So that means that in some cases, a police officer who is, say, a mile away is not allowed to attend a crime because he's not in the correct jurisdiction. So a guy has to come 20 miles just to attend that crime.
Yeah, no, I understand completely what you mean. Basically, what you're saying is if you have somebody that's just outside of fucking London, for instance, in Surrey, that's just committed a crime, nobody in the Metropolitan Police could go to Surrey because of the jurisdiction, because it's be crossing county lines.
Yeah.
Sort of like state lines for the police again.
Yeah, exactly. But imagine in the sense that like the it's more ridiculous because some of these council areas are not as clear as a county. Like a county is kind of like a wee blob on the map, but some of these um borders of the way the councils work are like kind of zigzags, and like you'll have a rural council and a city council,
Mm.
and the rural council
Yeah.
encircles the city council, and so all the cops might be at, say, the north end of the county. You've got the city in the middle, and the crimes happened at the south end of
Yep.
the county, and the city cops cannot attend. It's madness.
There's somebody bouncing on a chair. I know. As soon as I pull that up, everybody just stops. No, you're completely right. I mean, a lot of people will blame the police for this, but we can all say and we can all see even now, it's the fact that it's the government and it's the actual CPS and it's the justice system that's pushing for this. And obviously, the leaders of the justice system are the fucking government, whether you're in Scotland or whether you're in Westminster. It doesn't matter. They are the ones that tell the police and the CPS what to do. They are the lawgivers. That's what's
Yep.
worrying. That's what was worrying in Count Dankula's position, because I know that he is going to appeal what's going on. But if this was even to leave, yeah, but even if he was to leave it the way it is, and this be a precedent of anybody that gets done for hate speech, so to speak, then they've got to pay an £800 fine. It's just a way of making money off of people again, rather than actually trying to fucking censor people. It's an underhanded way of earning money. And that's why I see it the way that I do, because I honestly feel that has nothing to do with fucking police censorship, or this actually has anything to do with the fucking point of coming out and people saying, "Oh, this is about free speech." It's like, no, this is about the government trying to get more money off of you, and the illusion of people actually going through the authoritarian part. It's the same thing with Facebook. They want to control it so they can control the ads. It's literally, that's all it is. They want the money, in my opinion.
Yeah, they want to control the information which is going out there, because there's so many different, like we've mentioned earlier, different ideas about what's going on with regards to the government, but they want to keep that hush, and there's people who are opposing views to the government with things to do with Russia or Syria, and they're trying to inflict their ideas onto everyone, and social media, suddenly Russian bots are around and, contradicted everything that they say. And I think this is a way of preventing that as well, and using Count Dankula. But this has been going on for a few years now. I've been looking on the internet, and a lot of people have been this, but it's only that Count Dankula's got so many followers, but it's become more public, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Which is the main reason why everybody's found out about this story, and why Jonathan Pye did what he did, and why the Sun's been dogging him for such a long time, and other newspaper outlets are available, blah, blah, blah. But that's the reason why so many people are after the story, because the story in itself divides people. I don't know why it divides people on the actual issues of free speech and be able to say what you want, as long as it doesn't affect anybody. I don't know why it divides anybody at all, but apparently it does, and the news know this, and the government knows this.
Well, it doesn't divide people as much as the news would like to say, because the news do that thing. You'll know, you've probably talked about this before yourself, of balance on a news site or whatever. So they'll say there's 10 people in the country that believe free speech is bad, but the other 50 million believe it's good. They'll still have one of each side on the news, which makes it appear like it's 50-50, which it obviously isn't. Now, I do not even personally know this person. I know one person in my real life group of people that thinks that it was stupid and he should have been prosecuted. One out of, I don't know, I must know about 700 people or more. And one of them has said, a few of them have said that it was disgusting, and a few of them have said that they think he's an arsehole, but none of them have said that he should have been. Most of them are annoyed that government money was spent on this trial, because they want the same thing as what you want, of let's get after these grooming gangs, or let's get gang crime under control or something, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the only point I would say to that is, with our type of news, they don't actually put two sides of the debate on anymore. I mean, when they're talking about Brexit, there's nobody trying to defend Brexit anymore. It's all against it. When they're talking about things to do with freedom of speech, they don't have that aspect anymore. They don't have that balance, so to speak. It's more of a propaganda machine being pushed out, which is
Yeah, well,
another
look at Question Time as well. They'll have, what, 6 panelists, and there'll be one conservative maybe, and that person will be, you know, a centrist effectively. And it's like, well, where's the disagreement really here?
That's the point, though, isn't it? If you don't have the disagreements going on the telly, then for some reason most people think that there isn't disagreements actually going on, that there isn't a different point of view. That's the reason why everybody hated Tommy Robinson for such a long time, and even to the same aspects, a lot of people still do. They still think he's a racist. But yeah, I'll ask one question to anybody that watches this later on. Find me one thing that he says that is racist. Just one. Most people can't fucking do it because there isn't any. But that's the point. The media portray people in different ways,
Exactly.
and the media portrayed Dankula in a particular way of trying to portray him as a fucking Nazi. I mean, he even had to come out on Twitter to a fucking newspaper and say, "Look, I'm a fucking communist. I used to be a bloody communist before I did any of this." Just to show you how different my political views are to Nazism, which, to be fair, hanging around with Sargon, he shouldn't really have done that because, you know, the horseshoe effect and everything. But whatever. But that just makes the point. It's the fact that the media portray him in a particular way, and people that don't do any sort of research, that just watch the telly or whatever, just decide on their principles what the news is saying. If the news say, "Oh, this is a horrible person," 2 days later they're down the pub going, "Oh yeah, that Count Dankula, he's an horrible person. Did you read what he did?" And then you just get the media's version rather than what actually happened.
Are you trying to say that the public are easily led by the press? Common sense? I'm shocked.
Yeah, my friend.
People are avoiding.
Sorry, go on, social. Carry on.
I was saying that you know, a lot of people are avoiding the mainstream media now. They kind of recognise what's going on and the propaganda which is happening with it. So I think that I don't think that this is going to play to their benefits at all.
Just quickly, one. Happy that you've turned up, Magic Bollocks. I will get to you very, very shortly and say hello and introduce you properly. But I just wanted to make this point. Though people like ourselves and in our little group and in our room, a lot of people, yeah, they are off of TV and things like that. We have to remember most of the people that actually still watch the news are the majority of the country. It by millions of people, it's over. There's just not even a chance of actually even counting it. The percentage that don't watch telly is quite small compared to what does, and that's the point I was making.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I do agree with what you're saying, but I think that they've also got a lot of access to social media, so they're also getting a lot more influenced by their groups which they're within on social media. So I think that they're not getting pulled in. Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, and that's why it's probably you know, why this has taken place and what have you, just to prevent people from speaking out their minds.
Magic, I love you. Yeah. Speak, say hello.
Hello.
Yay.
That's my job then for the day.
Yep.
Hello,
yeah.
Hello, social.
Beautiful.
Hello, social. Nice to see you again.
Hello, and you. And
oh, she's got such a lovely voice.
Now our microphone works. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And of course, to Crumple, it's always nice to hear his subtle Scottish tones. He hasn't got the full-on angry Scots voice, has he?
No, not yet. I've not.
How many more whiskies will it take until you get fully angry?
It'll take either none or I don't need whiskey to make me. I'm actually you know, I like a good whiskey to relax. It sedates the angry Scot. It doesn't make me angry.
Oh, I see. He's a full-on, full-blooded angry Scot. That's exactly what I want to hear. In your sort of your circle of friends at the moment, then it must be. Is dank quite a well-known topic, or is it only for sort of like, you know, the internet shitlords and everybody else hasn't got a clue?
Dankula's very interesting in that he's not really geographically very far from me, but nobody knows who the fuck he is. I didn't until Alex Jones started talking about him. You know, so I'm, you know, a guy from Texas, and then Alex Jones led me to Razor Fist. So a guy from Texas, then Arizona, led me to a guy from just down the road. As from my circle of friends, no, not really anybody knows who he is aside from through me, and a lot of the people I know online, exclusively online, a lot of them know who he is, but they didn't a year ago. So it's very strange because he's always had a very good following, but it seems very spread out.
Yeah. I must admit, I only came to know him because of, well, through Ogre, really, when he did his stream with Sargon, which ironically will be a year exactly tomorrow. And he popped on towards the end, and I liked him straight away because he was the one who sent to Sargon's t-shirt competition a pair of his balls. And I'm even more annoyed the fact he didn't win, because now that is something I'd love to have on my torso.
Yes, you'd love to have Count Dankula's balls on your chest.
They're a massive pair of balls in some respects. And he's about to prove to the whole world how big they are as well.
What is he doing a striptease?
Yeah.
I prefer
public
it
service. I was looking into this, and you know how you've got the Lord Advocate?
I think
Scotland has its own Lord Advocate, and I didn't know this. I thought that the Lord Advocate was for UK cases, and that in Scotland you had to go to the Procurator Fiscal, but it was the Procurator Fiscal that prosecuted him. So I was like, who the hell do I write to? But it turns out that Scotland has its own Lord Advocate. So everybody email the fucker when the appeal comes up, or before. Just email the shit out of the Lord Advocate.
Yeah, just fucking do it now. If
And
you've
be
got
nice,
a couple of
don't
minutes,
be a
just
dick.
do it now.
Do you think he'll have more of an effect than all us lot did, who wrote to our MPs and to, I think it was Rees-Mogg and a couple of others, and got absolutely no response at all?
Yes, it would have an effect because
It's the Lord Advocate's job to have a look and review law cases.
Yes, there was a UK one, but I remember this is how I knew what a Lord Advocate was, where was it not to do with Hillsborough or something? It was the Lord Advocate reopened the case or something because of public outcry. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was actually Hillsborough.
So they have that kind of discretion that they can do that.
No, it wasn't Hillsborough. It was the fucking the coal miners one. The battle of fucking whatever it was.
I knew it was one of these horrible, just kind of pointlessly tragic things, but yeah, it was a big thing and nobody was looking into it, and the Lord Advocate has the kind of discretion that they can open or quash a case like that.
Yeah.
So if there's a public interest, so if you make a public interest by emailing them to death, then
death by 1,000 emails. Go, everyone. But does everybody think that he should appeal the case, even though he's only got a fine? Does everybody think that he should?
No, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to. This cannot just be allowed to stand, because if they think they can get away with this, what's it going to be next time?
Yeah.
Yeah, and since the 1200s, British law has worked by precedent as opposed to the letter of the law, and so if they're allowed to make a precedent out of this, it will be a frickin' disaster.
Well, the precedent's already been set. If he doesn't appeal, the precedent's been set for him to for anybody that's gone through this to get an £800 fine. Now, a lot of people go, "Oh, well, that's at least it's not prison." It still doesn't matter. It's still the fact that you're being prosecuted for what you think and what you say. 1984 is still trying to happen.
Yeah, because you can be relieved that he didn't go to prison, but still need to understand that nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Just because he's out.
Yeah, he's still been found guilty for effectively wrongthing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Even if they'd said no fine, and you can still walk, and we think that your punishment has been the 2 years you've spent in court, you go away, but you are guilty. He should have still appealed it because, again, it's the precedent that matters. So he's kind of doing himself a favour because he might get his £800 back, but he's also doing a kind of public service in a way by doing this, because yeah, he'll clear his name, and I'm sure where everybody is aware of how difficult it is to get a job and stuff if you've got any kind of criminal record. But it's not just that; it's a case of he's helping everybody out by if he can get this overturned. So we need to do our bit and get the Lord out of it, because the MPs and MSPs do not give a shit. And the other thing is the SNP, the Scottish National Party, the MSPs are not allowed to raise this.
Nope.
Because it's written into their credo that if an SNP member questions the party, they are to be expelled.
The same as the Labour Party now is that if you question the almighty Corbyn, you will be expelled, and if you will not be expelled, we will push you out by anti-Semitism.
I'm curious to know as well, because we spoke about it before, didn't we, Common Sense, about what we thought he was going to get punishment-wise. Now, you said at the time you thought he was going to go to prison, and I said that I thought he was going to get a suspended sentence. So it's nice that we were both wrong, but were you surprised with him just getting the fine?
If he wasn't going to go to prison, he was going to get a fine. There was no way they were going to let him off. There was absolutely, in my mind, there was no way they were going to let him off with it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have spent so much money on it. They wouldn't have changed even the idea of the sentencing, even the idea of actually changing the actual point of what he was accused of. It's taking over 2 years. That there had to be a process to this trial. There was no way he was getting off scot-free.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that he only got a fine. I honestly thought that he was going to get sentenced to jail if if he got convicted. So I was shocked by the fine, to be honest with you.
I think they sort of misunderstood the sort of public perception. They just thought it was a nobody on YouTube. Nobody really cares, and if they send him down,
we've said this already.
Yeah, and nobody would notice. But
I
wasn't here. I didn't hear it. It didn't happen.
Well, that's a point as well. Is there's not just the thing of what we were saying about he's a working class guy, and because I mean, £800 can cripple a person. It doesn't sound like much, especially if you've got debt as well as a low income. That can be crippling enough. But it's not just that. It's like if nobody knows about it, they can get this case pushed through. They can create the precedent so that in 10 years, when it does matter, when it's trial of the century, they have precedent. And the internet's the new Gutenberg press, and they haven't been able to catch up because it keeps evolving too quickly. And thanks to social media, that's made everything nice and stagnant for them so that they can get the laws to catch up with the what's going on online. Whereas before it was very kind of nebulous. It was difficult for people to keep track of what was going on online. And just like the Gutenberg press, they're going to come after. I wouldn't be surprised if you need some kind of license to go online at some point.
Oh, we definitely will, especially if we get the ideas of fucking Facebook and the government taking over social media. We'll have to get licensing and passports to be able to pick on what times that we're allowed to go on, because the government will say, well, if you spend too long on it, you'll get addicted to it. You can only have it in small doses, and you can't go to that news source, and you can't go to that news source. And when we said that we were bombing I don't know, fucking Syria, for instance, don't go to a Syrian website to see what we're doing. Don't worry about that.
Don't listen to that lovely chap who used to be in the SAS who said that we're actually bombing the good guys.
Yeah.
Is it in China?
Carry on.
Is it in China where you have to use your full name for social media now?
Yes, and you get social points for it as well. For what you if you do something good, you get social points, and those social points can be translated into actual currency. Just quickly, the real UK True, he can't get legal aid for solicitor because they won't even give legal aid to the Birmingham 6 people that want to the victims of the Birmingham 6 to restart that trial. So he won't get legal aid for going against the new law that's being created. No way.
No, but I suspect that he will get the money for the appeal. Very easily, I would have thought.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think he made
amazing,
something
yeah.
like 8 fucking grand last night or something like that.
Yeah, mate, you don't know how tempted I was to put something incredibly controversial on the internet last night. I thought, fuck me. Why am I wasting £2 a week trying to win the lottery? I'll just put some hate speech on the internet. I'll be rich.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you
Just
even
don't
have to
question
worry.
the Saudis.
Yeah, question the Saudis.
I want to be rich, not killed.
Close enough.
Well, if they give me a gold-plated coffin, I'll consider it.
Why? Why would it matter what coffin you were in?
Mate, because I will be the best person with the bling in the entire graveyard.
Yeah, but you'll be dead. You won't be able to
Hey, mate, it don't matter that. It's the respect I'm getting from the other corpses.
Yeah, they're also dead. It doesn't work that way. Do we have to go through this again? Do I have to tell
You haven't booted me once, mate. I got to try, haven't I? But if you do, I will start calling you Mad Dodge.
Yeah, I'm not Mad Dodge. I can take a joke.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything else to say on the Count Dankula issue? Any other theories or anything, or what we think the government's trying to do, or what is the government's next move if he does appeal?
Well, I just wanted to pick back up on something Social said just after I joined about how she said that a lot of people these days are using social media and they know about things like Dank and all that. But I am the only person I know of who doesn't have a TV license and doesn't watch mainstream stuff. I mean, I've just come back from my parents' house and I walk in to see them just, glued to the TV watching BBC One.
And I thought you were going to take that somewhere completely different. I walked in and I just saw them completely different.
You know what, common sense? This proves the mentality of your mind, mate, doesn't it?
I've been with you for far too long, my brother.
Don't you blame that shit on me. No, they were glued to the set as opposed to glued to each other.
Okay.
And it is funny sitting there watching this stuff. And as somebody who is aware of what I believe propaganda is, it's fantastic to actually see it in action. The absolute bullshit that the programs are just pumping out there. But to like my sisters and all my, the friends I have, and you'll go around to their house and all they fucking do is sit in front of the idiot box watching the same old shit. I try to say to them is that, there's better things out there to watch than this, because they'll be there moaning, saying about, oh, fucking telly, never anything on. And yet you'll go around and see them again a week later and it's the same thing. Try something else. There's new mediums out there you can try. Now, too set in their ways.
I don't mean to cut you off again, Magic Bollocks, but we've already been through this.
No, I don't care. I didn't hear it. I'm going to carry on for at least another half an hour.
I always do I got so fed up of going around to people's houses and they're watching the news. And it's like, don't get me wrong, if they're watching the news because they want to watch the news and they are enjoying the experience of watching the news, then I won't bother them. That's fine. But they're always shouting at it or saying, oh, well, that's a load of shite. We know that's a load of shite. And I got to the stage where I tried it once and it worked, and now I do it to everybody. I went, right, so you don't believe what they're saying? No. So why are you watching it? And they're like, oh, so that we know about what's going on. I'm like, yeah, but that's, Azerbaijan. It's not Scottish news. So how does that affect you? And they're like, oh, well, because we want to know what's going on. It's like, but you just said you don't believe it, and we know it's not local. So why are you watching it? And usually the response, if you just give them long enough, they're kind of like, oh, right enough. And they'll just turn over. It's happened a few times. I'm like, thank fuck, I don't have to put this shite on anymore.
You see, it's crump. I've had this argument with my dad, is that he still gets a daily paper and he's always moaning about, well, actually he gets a local paper and complains about what a Tory rag it is, apparently. And I keep telling him, pointing at his computer in the corner, you don't need a paper. All the news you'd ever need, you can get off that thing. Oh, yeah, I suppose. And then I'll go around again, I said a week later, and he's still moaning about the fucking paper. Did you cancel the paper like I told you? Well, I like doing the crossword. Oh, fucking idiot.
People say that.
Go on, Social.
They all will say that I like doing the crossword. I get it for the TV guide.
It's just so hard to break a habit, isn't it? After a certain while.
You're a bitch. That's exactly what I was going to say, and you know it was because you heard me say it.
I know you've been with me too long, darling.
Dick.
All right, keep your glue to yourselves.
We will make it sticky for you as well, Crumple Point. Don't worry, you can join in.
Oh Christ!
Yeah, you can be like the meat in a common sense magic bollock sandwich.
And
we need to find a balance
remuneration
Sorry?
for getting my remuneration.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
You just get our love, mate. It's worth so much more than money.
Nah,
Yeah.
I'm out.
but quickly going back to the stream before it gets too fucking derailed. But that's the whole point, isn't it? Everybody's set in their ways rather than trying to actually work out what's actually real and what's not. It's the same things we say to our kids. You've got fucking the BBC now going into different schools to teach them what is real and what is fake news. And as it's the BBC, you know, the BBC are just going in there going, you see this logo? It's got BBC on it. If it doesn't have that on it, it's fake news. No matter what it is, it's fake. Don't believe it.
This is another thing though, because even in relation to myself, I've tried to be aware of this. You know, because I'll go on it. Oh, you're watching that fucking telly again, right? But I noticed a while ago that when something is bothering me and I can't really do anything about it, I have this tendency to lapse into current affairs mode because I'm really good at keeping track of current affairs. I'm good at checking out sources. I'm good at researching. I'm good at all that stuff. It adds nothing to my life except stress. And so it's like, even the other day, like I took a week off watching your videos, Common Sense, because it was about these Islamic gangs, and then I just watched. Started watching them again the other day.
We took a week off at the same time.
Oh right, of course. Well, I caught up in one yesterday, but I was like, right, I'm interested in these videos. I like the information. I like going and checking all the sources, but it just stresses me out. And there's no point in doing this if it stresses me out. So I'm just going to wait until I'm over it, and then I'll watch the video. And that's how you got to do these things, because you might think that you're all woke and trendy because you're using the internet, but you're doing the exact same thing, you know? Not aimed at, you know, the proverbial you.
Oh no, I'm doing the same thing as what mainstream media is. That's why I have a problem with mainstream media going, these people on YouTube and these people on other bits and social media, they're not real news. It's like, well, no, we're doing exactly the same as what you're doing. We're checking our facts, we're giving an opinion, we're citing our sources. If you have a problem with the sources, attack the sources, and then come after us with our opinions. Don't then try and say that we don't know what we're doing. We're doing exactly the same thing as what you're doing. The proverbial BBC.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, you realise that I'm just doing the same thing as these people who watch the BBC. I'm raging at these current events things, and I'm not looking at them because I'm interested in them. I'm looking at them because I want to be right, or I want to be abreast of it, or I can't stand the idea of not knowing what's going on, which is exactly what these people are doing. I'm just doing it slightly better because I'm using non-mainstream media, but I'm still doing the same behaviour. So it's a trap either way.
No, exactly. I'm gonna just quickly call out one of our subs in the chat called Hammered Spud, and he puts, so the vids tagged at BBC on Pornhub are real and the others are fake. CSG, got it. Well, it depends on what genre you like. I mean, if you like news, then yeah, you take the BBC. Some people apparently like incest, but it all depends what you like on Pornhub, my friend.
If somebody's going on the BBC website and having a wank, they really, really have problems.
Yeah, I'm not too sure it's about that. I'll teach you when you're older, Magic. I'll teach you.
No. I think I've read between the lines there. And Hammered Spud, you are disgusting.
Give over, Magic Box. You'll have a bit of Fiona, Bruce, and we know it.
Mate, I've already done it.
I'm going to leave that right there, right in the middle of the voice of one sofa.
Ugh, grim. He never washes it, you know.
Poor Social's just hiding under her desk now. She's like, "Oh God, what did I agree to?"
I'm blushing.
I'm sure you are. Should we do another story?
That's a very amused blush, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or is it just all the blood running to your cheeks because of laughing?
Bit of both.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. Should we move on to a different story? I don't need to screen share this one because the title does it in its whole self. The title for this story is why won't England celebrate St. George's Day? And I know we've got 3 English people, including myself, but we also have a Scot as well. Roughly. So,
I'm
what
not
does everybody?
Welsh. I'm Welsh.
You're not as important as I thought you were anymore.
Oh, thanks.
Whoever thought that? Yeah, we got a bit of regional racism going on.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if we had the voice of one on, we'd have fucking one person from each corner of the UK.
We would.
Fuck.
That's not necessarily a good thing.
No, it's not. We would all kill each other.
Well, he'd kill all of us, yes. One transit van and we're fucked.
Oh, we'll get to that story at the end. We'll get to that story at the end. With the
I didn't know he'd emigrated to Canada.
No, not yet. But he did take a day trip. But
Yeah,
I think that's a really good. I think that's a really good point, especially considering it's St. George's Day, and there's not a single fucking flag anywhere where I am at this moment in time. Nobody's put on a specific spread or done anything particular. Nothing in the big town that I'm near. Nothing's really gone on today. It's just a normal day compared to how
I'm in a
everybody else
village.
celebrates it.
I'm in a village and they are celebrating it.
Aren't you fucking lucky, you Welsh bastard?
Fuck off.
That's the kind of answer I like.
Carry on, social.
Well, yeah, they've got a little party going on in the village hall and everything, which I think's come from a more urban area beforehand. So for it in busier areas where it's multicultural, but the village area, it's really nice.
Yeah. It would be nice to actually have the flags up and everything and actually celebrate as a national pastime. But as far as I remember, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in 2012, it was not made illegal, but it was frowned upon to hang up the St. George's Cross. Obviously not the Union Jack, but the St. George's Cross, because they found that racist, because it implies that you were part of the National Front or the other one.
Yeah, wasn't it that Emily Thornberry who put on Twitter a picture of somebody's driveway? They had a transit and an England, St. George flag dangling out of the window.
Yep.
And she basically put like, "Oh, this is England" or something. It was in a derogatory way, which is, look at these disgusting racist working class people, being proud of our flag of the country we live in.
Exactly.
Exactly. And that's why I find it fascinating why the working class even entertains voting Labour these days. It's if you are an ethnic minority or mentally ill, it's the party for you.
I'm going Labour. Sorry.
You definitely belong on the shadow front bench, common sense.
Yay, Diane Abbott, my favourite woman. Thing, man. I don't know. I'll find out. No, I won't.
Yeah. It's times like that when a straight man questions his sexuality, isn't it?
I've questioned.
Yeah, questions whether I want it anymore or not.
I'm sure this question's come up a few times before in the past.
If you bring up fucking deserts and fucking islands, I'm kicking you.
Just because you wouldn't answer.
I used to watch This Week a lot. It's like it's on after Question Time, but it's better than Question Time. And,
the one with Neil Andrews.
Is that the one we had with O'Brillo? Yes.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because Andrew Neil, whatever you think of him, he's sharp. Even if you don't like him, I like him. But if you don't like him, you can't deny he's sharp.
Yep.
Portillo, also very sharp, and then Diane Abbott would be sitting there. It's just like it was like they were babysitting. It was hilarious. She would just say something, and it would be like Portillo's turn to speak, and he'd have to like invent something to say that sounded a little bit like what she'd said, but it couldn't be in response because she was just being so retarded. And that went on for some years, and they got rid of her finally.
Yeah, the funniest thing that I ever watched on that was when Diane Abbott was in the leadership rate. Fucking spastic. Told you I was mentally handicapped. The best thing was when Diane Abbott was actually running for the Labour leadership. I will fucking get there, even if I have to shoot myself. The
Grand Commissar.
Labour leadership. And Patillo and fucking Andrew Neil were literally grilling her because she's said a couple of times that West Indian mums will do this and will do that, and they literally were like pulling her apart on racism, and it was fucking beautiful. It was one of the best things I've ever seen. Diane Abbott's destruction was immense.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Neil's always called her out on her absolute bullshit, and he's usually pretty good at calling people out. And I'll, you can't really say that among people I know because supposedly Andrew Neil is some kind of evil far right Tory, blah 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 blah. I think he's a good journalist. I kind of. He's not like Paxman in that he doesn't make it about the Paxman show or the Andrew Neil show. He tries to grill them. And,
he's the only one they've got now who comes close to a decent journalist because he treats them all the same, and he does ask them the uncomfortable questions, the questions they should fucking know.
Yep. Like, how are you going to pay for? Oh wait, no, that was Nick Ferrari. How are you going to pay for the actual police's fucking wages? Well, we're going to pay him 30 quid a year. That's what we're going to do.
The SNP just don't let people go and be interviewed by him anymore. It's hilarious.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Communists don't like the truth. They try to hide it. If you've ever watched anything to do with Animal Farm, we've got these 10 commandments here, and every animal is created equal, but some animals are created more equal? Maybe? It's just the way that everybody keeps on changing their points, especially something like the SNP, which you can just tell, even though they're a nationalist party, they're still a social nationalist party. They're the closest thing to a Nazi party.
They're not a nationalist party at all, though. This is the thing. Like, they, for years, I hated nationalism and I hated nationalists, and to hell with them all, right? And then I realised that I am, in fact, very nationalistic. It's just that I thought that nationalism was what the SNP were, where they're the opposite. They want, they're, for want of a better term, globalists.
Yeah, they're neoliberals, aren't they?
Yeah, they have absolutely no interest in borders. They have no interest in self-determination. They are wanting to get us into every international sort of, organization, super governmental organization that they can. And they want massive immigration, from anywhere and everywhere that they can get it. And it's like, that's not nationalist policy at all. And that's before you get onto the fine details of their policies, but there's nothing nationalist about them.
Well, that's what's so funny, isn't it, about when the actual referendum about them going independent was on, and they were constantly asking Salmon about things like currency and how is Scotland going to pay for its infrastructure, and straight away it was always, we're going to become another independent member of the EU, and they were saying, so you want to leave a union to then join another union? So I thought you wanted independence. And that's the thing. They could not get a fucking straight answer out of them, which was they had absolutely no... It was basically they wanted to have a Scotland that they could completely rule without any influence from Westminster, even though then they would be dictated to from Brussels.
So yeah, and a lot of Scottish people saw through that because Scotland wasn't nearly as anti-Brexit as people make out. It was very slim, and it was slim because of the major cities, and that was because of they have all these sort of Antifa style absolute rabid nutters for every party, but they have high concentrations of them in the cities, and it's really easy to get them mobilized, and they don't come across as nutters unless you cross them, so they just appear to be very community oriented. And because I looked at a breakdown of region by region, and there was very little in it, and a lot of the rural areas voted to leave. But the thing is, a lot of people that I spoke to during the referendum voted against independence because of the Brussels thing, just like you said.
Yeah, it's that what they do is they'll just put out one figure, won't they, to try and win over the argument. I mean, I had a massive argument with this fucking dickhead who was. No, not you, common sense. I wouldn't call you a dickhead. I'll call you a cunt. No, this it was a young kid, you know, one of the ones who was saying about how 75% of 18 to 24-year-olds voted to stay in the EU. And I said, no, you didn't. He said, we did. 75% of those who voted. Yeah, 75% of those who voted. You know what the actual percentage of the 18 to 24s who voted? 36%.
I was close.
Yeah, 36 fucking percent. Do you know what 75% of 36 is? It's 27. So don't you tell me that fucking the vast majority of your generation wanted to stay in. You don't fucking know what the other fucking 3/4 actually wanted.
Yeah, and the other thing is they only ever ask students. So I've not been to university, and I don't plan on going to university, and I would have fallen into the bracket of, you know, young person at the time, and they don't go around council estates and ask people and they don't send out, you know, letters asking for under 25s or under 21s. They go to a university where they're overwhelmingly liberal or far left. And of course, they're going to agree with what the liberal and far left say. So they never actually get an accurate picture of what young people believe. That's why they're constantly surprised by it.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the most stupid things I heard. Sorry for going off topic again, common sense, but you know me, I like to derail everything.
That's not bad, mate. It's a good topic.
It's when obviously the polling day for the referendum came along. It was the same day as the start of the Glastonbury Festival, wasn't it? And a very high percentage of the young people who were turning up thought there was going to be voting booths for them at Glastonbury. And they were moaning like fuck then, saying that they didn't vote because they thought there would be. That's just, I mean, not to be too disrespectful to the next generation, but my God, you're thick.
Yeah.
The thing that pissed me off was I can't fucking stand ageism. I really hate it. And so it was this thing of like, oh, the older generation has sold out the younger generation. I'm like, how fucking dare you say that about older people? Just why are you allowed to say that about generations of people, but not races, not religions? Why is that allowed? Like,
it's entitlement, mate. It's how they've been brought up. It's when they say, like, you know, you've now got toddlers in adult bodies, they aren't a million miles away from the truth. These are kids who have grown up having sports days where nobody comes first or second or third. Everyone's a winner. They've all been taught. One of the most important things I think you need to learn as a child is the ability to lose, to realize that you're not the best at everything and you're going to be shit at most things. You might be good at certain things, but most things you'll be crap at. Because once you learn that, you become much easier to deal with how depressing and disappointing life can be. And these kids aren't learning that. They're just teaching them all this Marxist horse shit that we're all exactly the same and we're all exactly the same ability and we'll all achieve exactly the same thing. It's bullshit. Not one fucking human being who is alive now, who has ever lived or ever will live, is the same as the next person they're standing to. We're all individuals. We're all one-offs. We're all unique. So this crap about we're all the same, bullshit.
Yep, completely and utterly agree. I mean, I would, please, after I finish social, please carry on, but I just want to make this quick point. A lot of people always say that it's just an idea from the left as well. I know quite a lot of people that would not say anything about racism or anything else like that, but when it comes to a generational point, as you quite rightly said, Crumple Point, a lot of people will go, oh, it's the baby boomers generation, or it's this generation, or it's that generation. It's like, you've just said literally 2 minutes ago that you hate the idea of collectivizing people, but yet you're collectivizing a generation, a group of people. How does that hypocrisy sound to you? Not great, no? Okay. And that's even people from our own side and people that we've spoken to before with, or I've spoken to with before. And it's just funny to me. It's like when certain people say, oh, kids today are absolutely completely and utterly worthless, or they don't know what they're doing, or they don't know they've been born. It's like, yeah, most of them do, but a lot of them just keep quiet so they don't have to deal with the vast majority. So again, it's still the hashtag not all on everything, because I don't believe in collectivizing anybody. Don't get me wrong, you can generalize. Generalizations do make things easier.
Yeah, so long as they're informed. I mean, I'd like to come back on that, but let's hear from Social first, obviously. But I'd like to come back on that afterward.
Well, I was going to just agree with yourself, Trimple, about the ageism thing. And also what I find is that we are living in a multicultural and complex society these days. And we're dealing with all sorts of strange things like the rape gangs and the terrorism, and people are going to feel traumatized by these sorts of things. So coming back to, you know, Count Dankula and grossly offensive things on the internet, the left seem to be basing everything on subjective ideas, you know, and on emotions and all of that kind of thing. But then you've got to understand that there's going to be people who are dealing with emotions and trauma and are going to be reactive to that kind of thing. So I don't understand really how we're going to, or how the government intends to legislate those sorts of negative emotions which come with this whole multicultural society which we now belong in. Sorry.
No, perfectly well said. Perfectly well said. Rebuttal from yourself then, Mr. Crumplepoint, please.
Yeah, it was just a little addition more than a rebuttal, but it was the fact that it's not that I think young people are spoiled and not necessarily that they're stupid, but they are stunted because they've been institutionalized in the same way that, you know, when you get prisoners who come out of prison and they can't function. Well, these kids they've been, because the pound is worthless, people work more than they've ever, well, not more than ever, but parents work more. Usually both parents have to work, which means you go to childcare from a very, very young age. So say 4. And then you go into the care of the state until you're 15 or whatever. Then you go to college or you stay on at school. Then you go into university. So you're maybe, you know, 21 or older by the time you've even come into contact with the real world, and you can't handle it because the institution does not resemble the real world. And that's not counting, you know, places like hospitals and mental asylums that people end up in as well for various reasons. So like they just can't handle the real world. And it's a shame because it's not that they're bad people. These, you know, look at these Antifa types. It's just like they've just been mentally fucked, you know, from as young as as young as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ironic thing is they are mostly from well-to-do families as well. You don't normally see a lot of working class kids in Antifa because most of them are actually working.
True.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is that you've got people like us on here who we are constantly standing up against, the social justice far left idiots, but we also stand up constantly against the alt-right. But the thing is, these people who would label us alt-right, it's like, guys, you better like look at Dankula. It's like you should really be defending people like us and people like him, because the problem is that if we lose, the alt-right would fucking love to have us. And you know, if it comes down to it, they're going to go after you, and we're trying to stop that happening. We're trying to get everybody to actually speak to each other rather than get some mad Rami in the street. So why don't you try not insulting us and hear what we have to say?
Well, as Mr. Sargon would always say about people with Antifa and communists, liberals get the bullet too. And hello there, memes. Very well welcomed. I know you've got something to. As Mr. Sargon would always say.
Hey guys, what's going on?
YouTube's on, by the way, my friend.
Hello.
Yes, I realized that as I was shutting it off, hoping nobody would notice. Except
I noticed.
Anyway. What's going on, everybody?
Not too much, my friend. You've got a particular point that you wanted to bring up, so please go ahead.
All right. So I just heard a little bit about somebody was doing something to somebody else that they didn't like, and just here's an observation that I've kind of made, and it's one of those things where it literally comes full circle. Okay. So I said my premise. Here we go. So basically, quote unquote, skeptic community. Primarily, what did you say? Past 2-3 years has been going against the quote unquote SJW side. And basically, you kind of nitpick the different things. You bring up valid points. and I just end up hearing a lot of the same arguments. And I noticed this with MC the other day when he literally used an argument that I had heard from the other side literally 3 months before. Those were fighting words. And when that gets brought up, and that just literally brought it full circle for me. And here's one of the things, dude. Like, it's crazy because, like, when you grow up, you're supposed to do all these different things. I remember when I was in the 6th grade, you just want to fit in all the time. But it literally is group upon group. And whether it's you're a footballer, you happen to be a Republican, you happen to be a Democrat, you have to be a member of this club, you happen to be an alumni of this school, you happen to grow up in this town, you have to be a part of this group of friends or something. There's always an infinite number of cliques, which is bizarre because that follows the scientific method as well. Because when you're trying to do an experiment, there's always an infinite number of things you try to account for, but you can never account for all of them, because if you were able to, then you could literally find truth. In theory, of course. But no matter who it is, normally you'd have groups that would hate on each other. But now with the internet and just literally folks from all different cultures all over the world coming together, you happen to notice there's groups within groups that fall among all nations. And that's either kind of weird or it makes a lot of sense. So basically what I've noticed is Group A does something to Group B. Group B, on a varying scale, does not like that. Basically, Group B at some point will respond. If they're a tiny little group that doesn't have much ability to respond, it will be minimal. If they happen to have folks that could ally with them, let's say, they might respond much harsher. It's kind of like social Newtonian physics in a way. So basically, it's just no matter what happens, no matter who you're picking on, no matter if it's an SJW, whether it's a skeptic, this, that, or the other thing, dude, within 6 degrees of intersectionality, you get back down to the individual. And it really is just, you treat someone like a human being, and you'd be amazed how far you can go. It's just something that, observation that I can now kind of not quantify, but just kind of write down almost as an equation, because for some folks that makes more sense.
No, I can actually, for one of the first times ever, I mean, not completely entirely on your premise, but I agree with what you're actually suggesting, that if you take everybody out of their collectives or their collective mindsets and you talk to them as an individual, you'll be able to get somewhere. But if you attack somebody as a group, then the group will have a hive mind and defend itself.
Dude, you said something the other day, and it literally, it really helped. I don't know, act as like kind of like a core to it. I forget what it was, dude. I know I'm the worst person in the world, but I remember you said something, and it literally almost triggered me in this direction. So I just wanted to mention that.
No worries. I appreciate it. I've touched somebody without actually touching. That did not come out right. I helped.
Well,
somebody.
You do have a very good sort of ASMR voice.
Oh yes, I'm going to start chewing now.
CSG, you're going to hate this, but from a sheerly marketing perspective, you should create an alternate ASMR channel.
Okay.
I'm just saying that because you will activate Google AdSense within a short amount of time.
I did not know that I was that good.
Yeah, I'd actually say he'd be better off doing an SMN channel on Pornhub.
Woohoo!
Oh, that too.
Well, since it had already been brought up tonight, I thought, well, fuck it, may as well.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's not. It's fine. So, what does everybody think about fucking St. George's Day then?
Well, I was going to quickly come back on that point of groupthink, and I will be quick. It was just that I've noticed, in relation to what you're saying, if you look at a large group of people, it's almost like they lose their agency. And I've noticed you can actually look at the way groups behave, and it's very similar to the way that chemicals and like even atoms behave on a molecular level. It's really, you bounce the thing one way and it just reacts, like there's no thought involved. Whereas if you just engage the individual as an individual, you get the best out of people, like almost always. And that's something that I think was kind of perverted. When Magic Bollocks said about they don't know how to lose, the idea was show everybody what their strengths are, and that's been perverted into make sure nobody loses and show everybody what the strengths are and see the strengths in everybody. That's the best way to get things out of people. That's why I like this group of people we all have, because it's not just the same copy-paste talking points. You guys all have your own opinions on things, and they're very often unexpected to me, or I've just not heard them before. And that's why I tune in, because otherwise I would get bored. And so, completely agree.
Again, thank you very much for your point, and I actually appreciate the fact of you saying that. We do try, obviously, to make sure that we don't have the same opinions. I mean, me and Ogre obviously clash quite a lot, and Magic Bollocks is Magic Bollocks, so he's always there to destroy everything.
Well, I just like to think I'm right about everything, common sense. It makes it easier.
Fuck you, that's me.
Again, Magic Bollocks has demonstrated how he is leveled up to a prestige class.
Yes. He's not god tier yet, memes, but he's almost there.
Well, no, because his premise of assuming he's always right is actually one of the best ways to go.
Yeah, it can lead to extreme self-confidence, or it can occasionally lead to membership of far-left organizations.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly take this second just to address the chat quickly. Moz, I don't know whether to take that comment that you've just made as a compliment, or if you're calling me gay. I'm not 100% sure, and I'm not sure I look like a teddy bear.
He's obviously calling you a furry. Duh.
That's because that started further on up with Mr. Quinn. I just want to say this from Mr. Quinn, since he's asked, "Hello, Mr. Frodo."
Well,
it's something he asked me to say, and he's a nice chap, Mr. Quinn, so I will say it for him. Apparently, his sister thinks I sound exactly like some character in Lord of the Rings, and she gets some kind of weird turn on if I say it.
Nice. I think you should start up your own channel.
I already have, mate.
Yeah, but you don't want it.
And thank you very much, Means, for the hint. I'm going to make a lot of money.
Oh my god, dude! I just realized you could probably make a shit ton of money on like S&M podcasts.
Well, I've got 2 co-hosts who have cameras. There's a lot of potential.
Oh, dude, I'm saying fuck all the cameras. You don't even need that. Remember the old 900 numbers?
Oh, I know. But the trouble that when they turned out what they actually look like.
Yeah. We're not going down that road. We still haven't even decided to talk about, is it okay to fucking celebrate St. George's Day? Me and Social had one conversation and everybody fucking steamrolled.
No. I think we should celebrate St. George's Day by dialing a 1-800 number.
You're a dick. I'll tell you what fucking 1-800 number to dial. Dial 1-800, eat a fucking dick.
Well, thank you very much, darling. I'm very curious. I'm very curious that I'd like to Social to say something to tell us we're all disgusting. We need to grow up would be a start.
You're disgusting twats. Grow up.
Thank you.
Yay! I felt like I've been told off. I'm slightly aroused by it.
Oh dear, that was unnecessary.
Apologies, my lady.
Yeah, I must admit I am as well, though.
Quick Social, break open the St. George while he's busy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, did you want to say anything? Anything sane?
Who, me? I'd never say.
No, Social, because we don't get to talk to her a lot. I do like the sound of her voice as well.
Especially now my microphone's fucking fixed. We're so happy about that.
Yeah.
No, I've got nothing sane to say. No, carry on. It's your gay talk. It's arousing for me.
Did you say?
Wait, hang on a minute. How does that work? We're now intrigued. How does that work?
There's a lot of women who watch gay porn, isn't there?
I don't know. Is there? Let us know.
Yes.
I wasn't talking to you, memes. Go away. Go to base mama.
Elroy existed.
I find that very hard to believe, because I know obviously men like watching what they believe is lesbian porn, but obviously those aren't lesbians. I know because I live near a couple and they don't look like that. But I can't believe that a woman would want to watch 2 blokes doing things, relations. Yeah, yes, I always if I meet gay men, I always automatically assume that they're into agriculture because they're normally uphill gardeners, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think women find it intriguing.
Intrigue. Well, I know that you like having gay friends. Something to do with you like being able to talk to men, knowing that they aren't opposing later on getting you drunk and removing your underwear.
Yeah,
well, that's because that's the MO of many men.
Wasn't there a movement once in America? I forget whereabouts in America, where there were straight men who were deliberately going out pretending they were gay in an attempt to befriend ladies and hoping to,
Well, it
maybe
sounds
reveal
crazy.
to them
heard
later
that.
on that they're not gay. Yeah.
It's probably in California. It sounds crazy.
Bollocks,
Sure.
bollocks.
Yeah.
We must make a correction. You're saying there was a period in time previously where this happened?
Are you trying to say it never stopped memes?
I would never say something like that.
But would you suggest,
I have suggested.
as long as we clarify that you've suggested it?
Oh, yeah.
That's why you get the feminist men, isn't it?
No, you don't want a feminist man. They kill people.
Yeah, they do tend to have sort of criminal records eventually, don't they?
Well, no. Let's analyze this. A claim has been made. Feminist men will kill you.
I was joking. It wasn't the claim.
He meant rape.
Oh, okay. Another felony. Okay, it is not murder. It is still fucking rape. Why does it happen if we're going to make that claim?
They killed her inside.
That's just horrid.
Seriously, there's a remarkable number of these like anti-Gamergate men, feminist people who just end up being deviants and sexual predators and actual rapists.
Is it just possible? Now let's just entertain this idea for a moment here. You have some dudes on the internet. They started to get a little bit of notoriety. Again, they're dudes on the internet. They start to have actual girls talk to them, interact. Oh my God. And they start doing very silly things. They start acting in certain ways. And at some point they go to make a move. It's awkward as fuck and I guess comes off as sexual assault.
So all you're doing is proving our point by creating this premise.
What?
I don't know where you're going with this.
I'm just saying we should communicate better.
Mr.
Oh no, I meant it. I mean, like, there was a guy from Vice who's been done for it. There was a game developer who's been done. There was 3 game developers who've been done for it recently.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all the biggest, feminists you could possibly hear of. Yet they don't appear to have respected women enough to actually, keep their penis to themselves.
Yeah. Mr. Binary Surfer, reliable Binary Surfer, has just put a good one up in the chat for me. Yep. He said that perhaps, just maybe, these feminist men are helping feminism by creating a rape culture.
Indeed. I second that notion.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It's a very good theory. Yes. I mean, the theory is, of course, is that it's the idea of subscribing to feminism is because of some psychological guilt of what they're going to or what they already have done. But if I was in their position, if I was these very stumpy and normally with a sort of like ginger twinge to their hair color,
Kevin Logan.
No, I would have said potato, mate.
Potato.
Is that your cat again, common sense?
I don't think I would really be trying to pull a feminist though, because even if you're an ugly bloke, you still should have standards, which is either just give up or at least try to get a woman who, you don't have to turn the lights out and put 2 bags over the head in the hope that, if one blows off, you still won't see the other one. It's just, it's weird. It really doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But then I'm not...
to do the horrible thing of actually making a serious point in amongst that beautiful roasting of feminists. If you think about it, feminism is all about peer pressure. And so if you've got somebody who's susceptible to peer pressure and then they become a feminist and they become, it doesn't matter how vocal they are, if they're susceptible to peer pressure, it makes them pliable for predators to come along and say, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm into all that too, yeah," and then they've been victimized, but because they're part of this political movement, nobody will go after the guy that did it because they're too ingrained in the political movement of feminism.
Is that like politics in general? Are you just describing politics? The fact that politicians are normally the ones dipping their toes into most sexual deviance, so they don't ask the police to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think this is one of the things that fucks people off about party politics is the fact that if a guy on quote your side does something wrong, you should still go after him, but people won't do it because it's seen as a sort of tactical weakness. Oh wait, he's one of our guys, we can't go after him because we have to go after the other guys.
Ronald Reagan, thou shalt not criticize another Republican. Donald Trump broke that one.
Yes, Donald Trump's broken a lot. Generally America, but generally America.
He's broken open the meme market. Oh, the memes.
All the memes. The lovely, lovely memes.
Mm.
I meant memes of destruction.
What?
Hi. I just thought that I'd quickly share this with everybody as soon as I actually fucking get to it because I'm being a dick. There we go.
Whoa.
To infinity and beyond.
Whoa. I thought I'd do this because I thought it'd be quite interesting for everything that's going on at this moment in time, especially for Brexit and all that sort of stuff. I know that we have one American with us, but most of us are British here. If not, we pretend to be Welsh people. So letters going in if many bottle customs union confidence vote. That I'm going to try and read that again. I don't think that's what it's supposed to say. Letters going in if May Bottles Customs Union confidence votes. Obviously, the premise of this story is the fact that if she isn't able to get people to not vote for us going into the customs union, then people are going to vote for her to actually be axed from the PM. What does everybody think about that?
I have one quick question, CSG. And please forgive me, but I'm curious on your source.
Giddo. Order.com.
Okay.
You know where it is Guy Fawkes.
Well, technically, it's his cousin.
Yeah,
who happened to live about 600 years after, but you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very, very good website. Very informative.
So they come up with some decent stories, but I actually honestly feel that this story is actually quite credible, simply because the BBC and Sky News have been talking about it all fucking day.
Oh, so we pronounce that differently here in the States.
What it's technically pronounced Guido, because me and Common Sense had a slight disagreement over the pronunciation of the word.
Is it not just Guido?
And we were both wrong, because I said Guido, he said Guido, but it's actually it's an Italian name, and they pronounce it Guido. Yeah.
Anyway, back to the story. What does everybody feel about the story?
Well, I personally like it when I get something wrong and Common Sense gets it wrong. No, I think this is fantastic news, Common Sense, because if it's the thing that finally brings down Theresa May, I'm all for it. But unfortunately, it will also mean bringing down the government as well, which means it would force another general election. And although I do still think that the Corbyn government won't happen, and the Tories would probably limp back in with another minority government. But the thing is, she surrounded herself by SPADs, as they call them now, the special advisors, who are all of them. There's that Damien Green, there's that Ollie Robbins, who is an actual fucking communist if you look at his history, and they're doing everything they can to try and persuade her to give all these concessions in the negotiations. Whereas, like, you've got Gove, you've got Boris, you've got especially old Rees-Mogg and a few other Brexit supporting Tories who are basically saying to her that we will not back down on complete withdrawal from the customs union and the single market. And if there's any concessions on that, we'll mass resign, which will really fuck her over because she won't have a working majority anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I second your points, and I actually agree with all your points. I don't really like Theresa May in power, but the reason why I would like her to stay in power is because she's actually quite malleable. So, in other words, she's actually quite controllable by the Boris Johnsons and the Rees-Moggs at this moment in time. So they can push for the proper idea of Brexit rather than the Guardian's fucking quotations Brexit by name only. The thing is that I fear about this, that if this actually was to push forward, it wouldn't necessarily just crumple and destroy the actual government. It would destroy the idea of Brexit. That it would be a form of referendum again on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think under those circumstances that we would necessarily win it. Personally,
it depends.
I feel that.
Are you thinking sort of like you know, with the Irish with Lisbon 2, which was the people second time round were so disgusted they just didn't turn out?
No, I'm more thinking that people will be so disenfranchised with the fact that government in itself seems to be falling apart. Because if a government that is able to go through this bit at this moment in time where they're debating the idea of exploring a customs union, and people are going to be, and I use this word lightly, it's going to be so petty to actually try and destroy the government over not even talking about going in or staying out of the customs union. They're talking about exploring the fucking idea, and people are ready to resign and get rid of Theresa May on that. Now, surely if you're going to stick to your principles of Brexit and whatever, just forgetting Theresa May because she's a shit PM in general. But if you're sticking to your principles of Brexit, then you have to make sure that the government stays in charge. And I think it's the same thing with people that promote this idea of a second referendum on the deal. If you get rid of Theresa May, the people that are in Brexit and pushing for it, you basically are forfeiting the idea of Brexit, because you won't be able to win an argument by saying that this is a mandate delivered by the same government as it was promised by. It wouldn't work that way. Legally, you would have to form another referendum.
Well, it's how it's carefully worded, isn't it? The government consensus originally is we're going to deliver Brexit, and I'm sure she did make a speech where she confirmed it would be leaving both the single market and the customs union. And this whole fiasco with the Lords with that vote last week, which we all knew we were going to lose anyway, because we know that the fucking Lords are all cronies of who were put in place, especially during Blair's years, which are, ex-corporate types and party donors, and they've all got skin in the game. They either get subsidies direct from the EU or they've got EU pensions, and it's the same with the fucking civil service. They've all got vested interest in keeping us in. And the only real thing that's pushing for a full Brexit at the moment is obviously the MPs who generally believe that it's a good thing, that we will, hopefully, could be completely out. And the realization, I suppose, from certain members of the Tory party is that if they do deliver a full Brexit, then they will be unbeatable at the next election.
Definitely.
And May's main problem is the fact she's this fucking pathetic a pleaser who thinks that she can please everybody by having this common ground. It won't work. You can't do that. And she's trying to please people who will never fucking vote for her anyway. So, sod the fucking Guardian readers, bollocks to, the fucking BBC and Sky. Just think for a moment, what is actually going to get you re-elected in another 4 years? And exactly. If you think keeping us in the fucking in the customs union is going to do it, especially when the ordinaries, the normie working classes figure out that by staying in the customs union, suddenly freedom of movement is still applies, which is one of the main reasons they voted to leave, they're going to be fucking furious.
Well,
the thing is, I was
just going to quickly say, for anybody that's listening in the chat that is American or anything else like that, when we say customs union, don't worry about what we actually mean by the customs union. What it actually is, think of it as us saying that we're going to stay in the European Union, because it means exactly the same thing. If we stay in the customs union, we stay in the EU. Just so everybody knows in the chat.
It also means we can't strike any trade deals with anywhere else. We have to follow the EU's current trade deals that they have with every other country in the world.
Yeah. Crumple point, if you want to continue.
Yeah, the thing is, you can argue the fine details of Brexit and what this will incur and all that sort of stuff is, but the fact that gets me quite excited a little bit is I've spoken to actually a couple of Remainers who have said they would vote to leave on the principle that they believe in democracy, and the democratic mandate was to leave, and it's been ignored. And the Remainers were actually saying no, they would vote to leave if they felt it was just a dirty trick to get out of it. I mean, there's not a lot of them. I've not spoken to a lot of people that said that, but that was, I thought, quite a nice way to look at things. But the biggest problem is there's not a single leader in that entire House of Commons. They're all yes men or lunatics. There's not a single person in that entire House of Commons that I could look at and go, yes, I would consider you, not in the party sense, not in the job title sense, I mean in the social sense, a leader personality. Not one of them.
I could quite easily, and that's Jacob Rees-Mogg. Just one straight off the top of my head.
He's a manager. I mean, if he was leadership material, I think he'd be. I love the guy. I think he'd be trying a lot harder than he is. He's far too. He's efficient, but he's not a leader in that he's not got the ability to, through either guile or tactics, get people to do what he wants. And that's why Blair was so successful. Well, as much of a bastard as he was, is he was obviously leadership material, because he managed to get an illegal war going off of no evidence, based entirely upon rallying people or manipulating them. And I would rather people didn't manipulate others and rallied them, but in the sense of getting somebody to get behind as a country, there's not a politician in there who's inspiring that. Mogg's the best of a bad bunch, but I think he's more of a manager than a leader. Farage had that quality, but he wasn't an MP, and it's just depressing to see a house with the most overrepresented country in the world, MP to population, and yet not a single one of them is actually a sort of, for shorthand terms, a Churchill type figure that we can go, yeah, I could get behind him. He'll go straight down the middle. He'll tell the Europeans to go fuck themselves if he doesn't get what he wants.
Well, I think the reason why I say that, the reason why I say Jacob Rees-Mogg is because I honestly do feel and believe that he would say that, and I do feel that he would do that. Just seeing the way that he's dealt with some of the European commissions that he's in charge of, and when he's taken people to charge, like when he took David Davis to point out what's going on and proving him wrong on different bits and pieces. Remember, David Davis is the actual Brexit secretary, and yet somebody like Jacob Rees-Mogg was absolutely able to wipe the floor with him. And it's the case that Jacob Rees-Mogg may be the type of person that doesn't say too much. He just has that characteristic to me. It just has that character where I just want to follow him. I just want to see where he's going. I want to see what he's doing. I think that's the quality.
I agree with that. I really like Jacob Rees-Mogg, and I do think he's probably Prime Minister material, but he's not got seemingly the ability to get the Conservative Party at large to rally behind him and to whip them into shape. And what's the point of a leader if they can't do that, And the thing is, they could learn a lot from Jeremy Corbyn, because I really dislike Jeremy Corbyn, but he managed to get so much mileage despite his shit policies, his lack of personality, his hopeless inability to manage a political party, he managed to get so much mileage out of just coming out of Westminster and going and visiting people and telling them the honest views that he had. You know, I don't like his views, but they're his views. I have no doubt about that. And if a you know, a better politician with some actual decent policies was to come out and use the Corbyn formula of doing that, but with good policies, that's what we need. They should be learning from him, not just
one massive component of that equation. You're missing the momentum and the momentum group in itself, and Unite that was behind him as well.
Yeah, that's true. Unite were, yeah, that's not. I won't start on them.
Yeah, you also have momentum as well, which was a massive grassroots manufactured Jeremy Corbyn as well to propel him to the forefront of everything, and they're all communists, so they would be backing him anyway because he's the communist. And then you also have the fact that the Communist Party in itself has come out and said, 3 years ago, that while Jeremy Corbyn is in charge, there's no point to actually push anybody to be one of their leaders. We're just going to follow Jeremy Corbyn because he is what we want. So you've even got a whole party, a Communist Party, that's behind Jeremy Corbyn anyway.
And even then, Jeremy Corbyn actually followed a lot of the Farage formula. That Farage had kind of done that already. Because UKIP got 5 million votes from fucking nowhere in one of the general elections, and that was for Farage. That wasn't for Diane Evans and Paul Nuttall. That was for Farage.
No, I definitely agree with you. It was definitely for Farage, but it wasn't from nowhere. It was more of a case of everybody who's been having those problems where you weren't being able to speak properly about immigration, and if you were branded racist by the Conservatives or Labour. And at that moment in time, it was a case that Nigel Farage said, no, it's okay to talk about it. We need to talk about it. And I think that resonated with, as Magic Bollocks would say, the proper working class so much more than what the Conservatives or fucking Labour could do, that it just changed people's mind. That is so in the forefront of everybody's mindset in the UK that it's just one of the most important things that you could win an election on. That could turn the diamond on an election quite easy.
Yeah. Because you also got to remember that it was the Tories that took us into the EEC in the first place.
Yeah.
They were the party that wanted us in, knowing damn well what it was always going to turn into. And there is, I think somewhere on YouTube, Oxford debate from 1975 when they had the original referendum, and the Labour MP, whose name has long since escaped me, who actually debates on it, put so many good points across about what the EEC really is, what it'll become, and why it's a bad thing for the average working class Briton. Now, that was in the days when the Labour Party generally were still trying to stand up for and defend the working man. But of course, as time went on, a lot of people put obviously a lot of the blame at Blair's door, but a lot of this so-called modernising came during Kinnock's time. And as you well know, he is a massive Europhile. He's the one who actually called us all disgusting racists when we voted to leave. And why? Because he's going to lose his 800k fucking pension pot. Doesn't got nothing to do with ideology. He's just another greedy parasite. But
sorry, just quickly, and then please carry on.
Yeah.
You always know when you've got somebody like Ken Clarke and Neil Kinnock agreeing on something that you know it's something to do with money.
Yes, definitely. So you had the modernization under sort of Kinnock. In the only reason Labour didn't get anywhere near power during the two what's the word? Parliaments that Kinnock was leader was simply because people didn't want a Welsh windbag in charge of the country, and
Did
also
you hear
because
that,
Socials
he pointed it in your direction, not me. On our social, would you have wanted that Welsh windbag in charge?
Not that one, no.
Well, there you go. And also the fact, the great thing that lost in '92 was John Smith's pre-election budget, where he basically said that everybody's taxes were going to go up. That's really going to win a lot of people over, isn't it?
So the only thing that I hear when somebody says John Smith is "have it."
The Labour leader that a lot of people believe was knocked off by the Illuminati so that Tony Blair could get the job.
Oh, for God's sake! Was that John Smith?
John Smith.
Have
yes.
it.
Not it. And wasn't exactly the most charismatic man. He didn't do very much, but I still think he would have been a better fucking leader any day than Tony Blair turned out to be. But
he was a horrible Remainer, but I actually thought John Major was all right as far as prime ministers go, because we don't have presidents here, we have prime ministers, and I thought, you know what, as far as prime ministers go, he did a not bad job. But the problem was the press ridiculed him out of office.
There was a reason for that. He was shit.
Yeah.
He was shit, yeah. And the fact, don't forget, that's the man who signed us up for Maastricht as well.
Oh, okay, fuck him then.
Didn't give us a fucking any debate on that, and is now still a rabid Europhile as well.
See, that's why these conversations are important. I would have liked him unless I'd realised that. So, yeah, death by fire.
Yeah. So, and then you had Labour under Blair, which obviously went full neoliberal and basically became a sort of a Tory light party. And then what happened with the Tories after 2 disastrous elections with 2 unelectable baldies and then a fucking vampire? They decided that, we shouldn't resort to traditional conservatism. We should just adopt a Blairism, shouldn't we? And that's what we've ended up with.
The thing with the Tories is I think that they're a misnomer. They should be called the Continuity Party. I was just saying with AlphaGo in the chat there about the Duke of Wellington when he was Prime Minister. He was a rallying figure. Because we were trying to think of people that were better than Churchill, because I just had to think of a name. And no, we were talking about Wellington. And that reminded me, looking back over some of the stuff that the Tory party did back in the 1800s, and they were always about continuity of the state. They were never about conservatism, really, and they shouldn't really be called a conservative party. But I mean, that's politics all over, isn't it? But they're always about continuity. So because Blair established a new status quo, of course they just went, all right, we'll go with that, because it was a pro-elite, anti-normal people, pro-global new way of doing things, and it was very lucrative for them. And so, of course, they've adopted it.
Yeah. I think Blair definitely copied a lot of what the Clintons did, which was they obviously cozied up with the money men, the big corporations, while using left-wing ideology to their advantage. So things embracing full-on neoliberalism, which is we can start doing these trade deals so that we can start shifting jobs abroad, which will benefit our donors. But at the same time, we can start flooding the country with, cheap labor, and we'll get our lefty mates in the media and all these NGOs to say, oh, isn't it wonderful? We're embracing multicultural and diversity. Oh, fuck off. We know what you're really doing. The only real reason why multiculturalism is pushed so hard is because it's making certain people wealthy.
Yep.
The saddest part of it all is I think that if he gave it maybe another 2 years and came out with the right sound bites, Tony Blair could win another election. I fully believe that. I fully believe that the British people would be duped into that.
Tony Blair would not win another election in this country ever again.
Nah, I think he would. He's so
no, even if you put him against Jeremy Corbyn, Tony Blair would never win another fucking election in this country.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think given the way that the media have managed to deal with every opponent so far, and that he could market himself as the third party, and come away with probably, resurrect Nick Clegg from some god-awful hellhole wherever he is. A few of these horrible, oily prats come back. Give it a few years, I reckon they could probably do it. Especially given that this is my generation you're talking about that will be coming up.
But this is the difference. If, say, the Euro referendum had been held 10 years earlier, it would have been a solid Remain, no two ways about it.
Definitely.
But because it happened now, this is the thing I don't think they really fully understood and accepted, was the alternative media is really giving us, and the internet in general, is giving us the opportunity to do what we're doing tonight. We can talk to each other in a way we've never been able to, and we can tell each other stuff that we didn't know. And that's one of the big things they really, really didn't get. That's why 2016 gave us the Brexit and it gave us Trump. Two things that just seemed impossible maybe only a couple of years ago.
Hey, we cannot forget the Chicago Cubs also won the World Series.
Yeah, only 1 year out from the Back to the Future 2 prediction.
Yeah.
Yay.
Not too bad. Within 3 standard deviations.
And with memes doing that, I think that's time to, well, call time, to be fair. So we're going to do final words. Everybody knows this by now. Social Free State's been on a couple of times. Everybody else has watched the stream, so we all know what we're doing. If we have Crumple Point go first, then Means of Destruction, then Social Free State, then Magic Bollocks, and then I'll go last.
Awesome. Will I start?
Yes, please, when you're ready.
Just thank you very much for having me on. It's been good fun. I like listening to you guys, and to everyone, I will go off the back of what the guys have just said about we have a very special thing here with the internet and Twitter, YouTube, all that sort of stuff, where we can instantly communicate with each other in relative freedom, and we can always find new ways to bypass the censorship. And that's what we need to be doing. We need to be treating each other like individuals, and we need to, when you're speaking to people, don't get their cookie cutter political opinions and stuff off them, or philosophical opinions, whatever. Try and just get the best out of the person you're talking to, the person across from you. And that is how we will beat the lunatics on all sides of the fence, whether they be far right or far left or whatever. Because as soon as people realize that they can get on with each other on an individual level, or at least agree to disagree on an individual level, it makes life so much easier, and it makes us all happier to speak to each other. So, thanks for having me on, and that's my final word.
Thank you very much for coming on, Crumple Point.
Yep, no, thanks, mate. And dude, you definitely hit the nail right on the head there. You just got to treat everyone like a human being. And like you said, we just usually start off, it's like, all right, what cookie cutter do they fit into? And you're just trying to like size someone up. Why? Because there's trillions and trillions of facts. So if you needed to judge everything all the time, you're like, your brain's going to explode. We're human beings. We're pattern recognition creatures. So basically, when you meet somebody, just don't always assume the worst. That's the thing. Like Professor Peterson says, you might actually have the ability to learn something. So if you're going in and you're trying to necessarily disprove someone's argument, yeah, we have the old talking points and everything, and we've been through the process. But if you're coming at it from an attacking position, folks ain't always welcome to that. How about doing what we say we're actually supposed to do? Entertain the idea. All right, start from their point. Assume it's correct. And just ask the relevant questions to have them defend it. If they can defend it, hey, maybe you'll learn something. If they can't, maybe they learn something. So it's just basically, it's all perspective. It's how you go about it, because we really are more similar than we are different. So, yeah, just with all that being said, go dank.
Well said, Beams. Well said. Social, it's your turn, my darling.
Okay, well, if you feel inspired by Count Dankula going for the appeal, then likewise, if you feel that you continue to bring through the court system, then do it. And have absolute faith in yourself and in your beliefs. Absolute self-reliance.
Social, my darling. Sorry to cut you off. Your microphone has decided to completely fuck you over.
That's it now.
That's better.
Oh, fuck. Okay, well, so have complete self-reliance and make sure that you fight your fight if you feel that it's worthy of going through the court system, because I truly believe that it's fighting through the courts how we're going to change the future.
Well said.
Very well.
Magic, you're up.
I'm always up, mate. That's because I haven't reached that age yet. I want to talk about Dank because I feel so sorry for the poor bastard in what he's been through for the last 2 years, even though it's given him more subscribers than I think he would have ever got in that time. And looking at his live stream last night, the amount of fucking money he made is, one day, Magic, one day, mate. But it's the principle of it all. Why is the state so keen to punish somebody just for telling what most sane people know is an innocent joke? He even explains it at the very beginning. I'm doing this to piss off my girlfriend. And I can take complete solace with that because I spend every day of my life trying to piss mine off as well. But because I haven't done what I occasionally do and put it on the internet, I have not been arrested for a hate crime. But it's still the fact that you shouldn't be punished for doing a joke, regardless of whether you decide to advertise it to the world. And for a start, it was a joke that was only aimed at his audience at the time, which was, I don't know, about 20 or 30,000. I can't remember exactly. And the fact they felt the need to drag his name through the media, through the mud, through the mire, in the hope that somebody else won't train their dog to do a Sieg Heil. When you look at it with just cold, hard logic, it makes absolutely no sense unless you generally believe, like most of us here do, is that our state secretly wants to become tyrannical. And if that is true, I can't prove it, but it looks very, very, very possible, then every single one of us has a duty to resist it. And that's why if Dank does ask for some money for his appeal, I will be donating and I will do everything I can to help, because I think it's disgusting that the state would want to punish people for effectively doing what we all do to keep ourselves sane sometimes, which is having a laugh, making a joke. Okay, some people might find it offensive. That's their problem, not mine, nor Dank's, nor anybody's. If you get offended, tough fucking shit. It's one of the rights that we are not entitled to have protection from being offended. If you are offended and you want somebody locked up for it, then what's to stop your neighbor then complaining about something they overheard you saying in the garden and having you locked up? The whole point of freedom of speech is that you can express yourself as a human being, to say what you think, to say what you feel, and not fear that somebody's going to throw you in the fucking gulags for daring to think that way. So, to anybody who's listening to this, who will ever listen to this, for fuck's sake, never, ever, ever give up your free speech for anybody. And if anybody ever says they're offended by something you say, 2 words: fuck and off.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Magic Bollocks. Thank you very much for that crumple point. Thank you very much for that social free state. Thank you very much for that means of destruction. It means a lot to me that you guys could have come out today and actually done this stream with us. It means a lot to me that all the people that watch us can come out and actually watch us as well. It comes to the point when government is censoring individuals, but it also comes to a point when the government wants to censor the actual internet in itself. And that to me is just absolutely scary. I can't really fathom the point where the government is going to be able to do stuff like that, where it's going to be able to take things like Facebook, Twitter, and go, well, you need to follow our government rules, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. It is such a shame that George Orwell is not alive, because 1984 is getting closer and closer and closer. And he is absolutely correct in that book. It doesn't come to a point where a tyrannical government just takes over the world and then it's how it is. It happens in stages. And by far, we are missing those stages. We are missing those crucial points in life at this moment in time where we need to stand up and fight. And we have to rely on people like Count Dankula, who are strong enough to be able to do that for themselves. And we have to support them, the same as what Magic Bollocks has said, and reiterating what everybody else on the panel has said. We need to support those type of people that are willing to do that. Because if we're not willing to do it, we need to make sure the people are supported, so they can't get taken away, so they can't get pushed underneath, so they can't get fucking slaughtered for it. But the point is that the government is trying to do something. I don't know whether it's trying to get money off of people. I don't know whether it's trying to censor people, or what it is more likely, trying to absolutely censor different political opposition to keep things the way it is rather than trying to change it. We've all seen how everybody debates on this type of channel. We make sure that everybody is nice and open. We have lots of fun. We try to crack jokes about it. There are so many different channels. We were talking about the alt-right earlier on. There's an alt-right channel I know that's only got about 400 subs, so they're very open about what they talk about. I'm trying to get them to come on so I can talk to them about it. But after the way when I've started to talk to them, this is the response that I got after asking him to prove his point. Oh, this is not my point of view. This is some other YouTuber's point of view. Here's his video. Didn't even provide me with a link to the video. So my response to him was, I don't care what his point of view is. I want to know what your point of view is. And his response was, my point of view is using his statistics and everything else like that. How do you reason with somebody that can't even talk about their own political points, their own views, without using somebody else as a reference? That means that it's not their point. That means it's not their belief. They've listened to it and they follow it blindly. As we always say, it's a cookie dough cutter points. And it's just the same all over the place. Some people have it on the right, some people have it on the left, some people have it in the center. They just listen and believe to what's going on and they don't do the research. We say it all the time. Do your own research. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Social Free State. Don't listen to Magic Bollocks. Don't even listen to Ogre. Do your own research. Find out what it means to you. Find out what your points of view are. With that being said, I bid you adieu. I bid you farewell. And I'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye for now.